faith in him, for he is your Lord. Trust in him, surrender to his love.
Welcome to Bringing Jesus to a Broken Heart. Today's segment, we have a wonderful guest, Beverley Hubble. She wrote a book on intergenerational healing. It's a clinical book with a lot of Christian principles. The title of the book is Healing Your Family Tree. So we want to welcome Beverley today and talk a little bit about why she wrote the book, a little bit of her testimony, so that all the listeners can really just see what amazing grace and how Holy Spirit worked through the book for others to be blessed. So welcome, Beverley. Beverley, I met you at the conference down in D.C., and you were one of the speakers and a really great speaker on this topic, which is a topic that really speaks to my heart. And as social workers, I really think this is so vital for an educational piece in our work. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do as a social worker, like what your title is?
Oh, yes. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in Virginia. Title is LCSW for short. I work at a clinic where there are about 10 clinicians, all of whom have a very strong Christian commitment. So they are fully credentialed by the state, have all the education that other psychologists or social workers have who work in mental health. But the additional component is that they're coming from a very strong faith perspective. Faith has a dramatic impact in many cases on emotional well-being, on marital stability, on really a wide range of life factors. I also, on the side, spend equal time working outside of the clinical setting and with groups, so that is a wide range of who want to do a series on generational family well-being, or for 8 years I facilitated a workshop in a homeless program in D.C., and people in that program were in a year-long residential program, so it was just a wonderful opportunity to get their sea legs back for life and to build a strong foundation. And currently, I'm actually working with guys coming right out of state prisons in Virginia on these same issues, because often they come from very rocky family histories. That's a big part of the problem. And they emerge from families without the tools needed to really have a stable life. So by looking at the family history, not to go back and blame the past generations, but to have clarity about issues that either gave me strength or sabotaged my journey, and I have to deal with them if I want to get to a better place.
What made you want to write this book? What was the vision? When you went through the process and you were working it through and writing everything out for the book, what were you feeling? How did you feel like it would impact others, and what was the objective of writing the book?
Well, what I could see was that even with the wide population with whom I was working, from homeless to multimillionaires, if you see an approach that seems to bring rapid progress emotionally and in relationships that is equally applicable and equally effective, regardless of the socioeconomic strata of the individuals, that is very compelling. I can only personally reach so many people, but if it were in a book form, then it could go anywhere. That really was the motivation.
What is the name of the clinic that you said that you work with a lot of Christian counselors and it's faith-based clinic? What is the name of that?
This is Cornerstone Professional Center in Fairfax, Virginia. All of us are self-employed. It's a remarkable setting because I have other colleagues who specialize in issues which are not my specializations. 99% of the clients who show up at my door are coming from faith communities. So this would be a pretty broad spectrum. This would be Catholic, evangelical, mainstream Protestant, sometimes Coptic, quite a wide spectrum coming from a Christian perspective. This clinic is particularly well known in the faith community.
Would you feel comfortable sharing with us why you wanted to write it from maybe a personal journey? I know we talked about from a clinical perspective, but what about from a personal journey? Was there anything about your life that you felt like it was really important for you to write this?
I have been conditioned by my family growing up. I've picked up emotional habits, relationship habits, behavior habits, spiritual habits, work habits. All of these types of habits are kind of infused into us in the family system, habits to protect ourselves.
What were you most impressed with in your own research?
I just have mounds of research now on the impact of faith, even on something like addiction. And you're seeing it in the mainstream media.
Where was most of your research from? And if anybody wanted to sort of look this up and see how you have, correlated spiritual with clinical, I know you had a lot of sources. But is there any main one that you can elaborate on that someone can learn from this show?
I really can't refer them to one specific source. What part of it is just the way my mind works, and that is that I'm so tuned in to biblical concepts that when I see something even in the newspaper that is in sync with what I know, church teaching or biblical teaching, I automatically make the correlation and often will download the article and store it in my computer. My book, it's available on Amazon, and there's a lot of research in there that would lead to other sources as well. So that is Healing Your Family Tree. The paperback version or the ebook are available on Amazon, and it has a lot of research in it.
How do you consider yourself as a Catholic counsel? Like, how would you define that in your own words?
I suppose it isn't that different than if I were a medical doctor and a neurosurgeon like Ben Carson was. He was a person of very deep faith. So, of course, his faith infused everything he did. My core identity is that I'm a Jesus person. That's what I'm about, partly because I'm extremely aware of the impact of God in our lives if we kind of get out of the way.
To those that may be listening, what words of encouragement could you offer to someone who is struggling in an abusive situation or has been abused, subjected to a dysfunctional setting and or family? What would you say, Beverly, from your research, from your own life? What would be just your heartfelt words to them?
Revise the image in their minds of who they are. Often people develop a self-image based on what happened to them, how they've been treated. So they were treated abusively. It makes them feel as if they're worthless, as if they deserve it, or they may be such a bundle of anger that they want to strike out at everyone else. We know from a Christian perspective that we are made in the image of God, and that alone makes us treasures. So I don't have the right ever to mistreat another person, because if I do, I am striking out as someone made in the image of God.
Well, that concludes our show for today. This has been really great, Beverly. I'm so blessed to have you, and I think this is going to be something that's not only for the listeners who feel wounded and have been abused, but also for clinicians. And if you are a Catholic social worker listening and you are contemplating whether to join, I say this at every end of the show, and you could see it guest by guest. These are the people that are involved in the ministry of the National Association of Catholic Social Workers. When you hear these shows, this is what we're about: clinical, combining the heart of Jesus and bringing Jesus to a broken heart. So thank you, Beverly, once again, and I look forward to seeing you again, maybe at another conference.
Great. Thank you, Rose. God bless you.